So yes, there are many social workers who do not want to do therapy. My name is Jasmine. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I obtained my bachelor's in social work in 2018. I obtained my master's in social work from the one and only Howard University in 2019. I graduated with an MSW with a specialization in criminal justice or forensic social work. I knew early on that therapy is not something that is what I wanted to do. Like, it just wasn't something that I wanted to do. It wasn't something that was at the forefront. I'm not opposed to therapy. I think therapy is a great tool. I've done a little bit of therapy. I think I make a great damn therapist. However, you have to know who you are and never let people tell you who you are. So, today's webinar is really going to talk about things that you can do outside of therapy. Now, a disclaimer, because I want to be completely honest. As somebody who has moved around in social work from community-based case manager at a criminal justice agency to working in a public defender's office to being in school social work to doing substitute teaching, what have you. Finding something outside of therapy is possible, but it is pretty difficult, or it can be difficult depending on where you are at. So always remember that location does matter when it comes to this field. Location matters a lot. For an example, the DMV area is the hot spot for criminal justice social work, for forensic social work, for macro social work. Somewhere like Connecticut or even New York is somewhere that has a lot of criminal justice social work jobs or forensic social work jobs. So just keep in mind that your location does matter depending on what you want to do. So we say that, okay, well, if you don't want to do therapy, there's other things to do. So what can you do outside of therapy? Medical social work is one thing. Hospital social work is another thing. Working in the emergency room department as a social worker is something else that you can do. Working in the public defender's office as a social worker is something that you can do. Being a dialysis social worker is something that you can do. Home health social worker is something that you can do. I just told you that I was a case manager at a community based criminal justice agency. Full transparency, that job did not pay me anything. That job paid me crumbs. That job paid me approximately 35,000 after getting my master's in social work. So when I talk and when I speak, I'm always trying to give full transparency because a lot of people will say, oh, well, you can make a lot of money in this field. Okay, well, when? Okay, well, how long is it going to take? Do I need a license? Do I need years of experience? Is this fresh out of graduate school? So people throw things around and they don't give the full transparency. And as your social work big sis, that social worker entrepreneur, I want to put everything at the forefront. So a case manager, when I worked in community-based social work, right, or community at a community-based criminal justice agency, I did case management. And so, yes, it was called case management. However, what I provided to clients were basically mini therapeutic sessions. We used what was called Curie guides, and the Curie guides had different topics and different things to go over with the client depending on what their needs were based on the assessment that you did. I utilized a lot of motivational interviewing skills. So, yes, that was something outside of social work, but again, it did not pay a lot or enough. But you might move to somewhere like California or Atlanta and find a case management job that does pay more than that. And so when we talk about salaries and when we talk about pay and when we talk about soft social work jobs, all of that is up to you. What might be a comfortable salary for me might not be a comfortable salary for you based on bills, based on if you have a family, based on if you have kids. Everybody's life is different. So that's something that you also have to keep in mind. School social work is another thing that you can do. I am currently in school social work now. I think school social work is a semi-soft social work job. However, it doesn't pay enough for me. So I say semi-soft social work because I have a great supervisor. I have made a great impact on children. I have been able to explore younger grades. I've been able to explore high school. I've been able to participate in a lot of trainings. I've been able to network with other social workers. And again, it's just not enough pay for me. On top of all of that, you get scheduled breaks, right? You can use your PTO within your scheduled breaks. And that's pretty good. You get snow days off. You still get paid for the snow days. So school social work is definitely a good place to be if you have a family, if you have children. Another thing that you can do, student success coach, right? That can either be in high school, that can be at colleges. Another thing you can do is be an adjunct professor. Again, full transparency. I've been trying to land a adjunct position for like the past 3 years, the past 3 or 4 years. A lot of the positions will say, oh, you need your LC. A lot of the positions will say you need a certain amount of years post MSW, which I have. A lot of positions will say you actually need your doctorate. So in a way, it kind of starts to feel like, okay, well, I did this, and then it seems like the totem pole is moving. So just always keep that in mind and just remember that sometimes you also just have to apply. Like there's positions that I've applied to that I probably don't fully meet the criteria for. So it's either, you're going to give it to me or you're not, but you really have to be able to put yourself out there. Child protective services social worker is something else you can do outside of therapy. And that is something that, again, that's something that I've never wanted to do. Full transparency, CPS does pay pretty good. They are going to work you for their money, but they do pay pretty good. Some people will say, okay, well, I'll work CPS for X amount of years, and get X amount of money or whatever the case may be, and then I'll move into something else because CPS does have a high burnout rate. So social work in any field that you choose, whatever, it's all about knowing yourself and knowing and understanding that you will grow and change within this field. When I was doing direct practice for a while. Now I feel like I want to go into macro social work, right? Some people have done macro social work. They feel like they want to come back to direct practice. So you have to know yourself and just allow yourself to grow and evolve within the field. Public defender social worker, I already said, court social worker. So when I worked in the public defender's office, I worked within the legal team. I worked with attorneys, I worked with an investigator. And I was only pulled in on the cases if the attorney suspected like a mental health issue or if the client had a mental health background or substance use was going on. Every client that came in the public defender's office was not my client, meaning a client didn't just come in the public defender's office and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be your social worker. It was not that type of party. I help connect clients to treatment. I help intervene during crisis minimally because we had an LCSW that was a part of jail diversion that would really step in if something was really serious. One of the things that I found most interesting and that I did was not only did I just work day to day in the public defender's office, I also helped out with 1584 cases. And the 1584 case in my state is when a juvenile was sentenced to life without parole. And recent research shows that that is not just because their brains are not fully developed. So I was able to get to know clients who were sentenced to life without parole while they were a juvenile and help them while they prepared to see the parole board. So I did not speak at the parole board hearing outside of introducing myself, but I did a lot of one-to-one work with the client, going to visit them at the jail, making sure they understood what the parole board was looking for, making sure their writing piece was up to par, and just making sure their story was heard. One of the things that you do as a social worker within the legal system or within the public defender's office is you want to humanize clients. Clients commit serious crimes. Clients commit heinous crimes. However, your job there and your role there is to humanize them. And so how do you do that? I wrote a lot of mitigation reports. Mitigation writing is when you are trying to really show the judge in the court, how did this client get in front of us? How did this client become a part of the criminal legal system? What led them here? Because rarely do you have a client that just popped up in the criminal legal system. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm saying it doesn't happen often. People have stories. People have lived very tough lives, and it is no way, shape, or form an excuse. It's just a way to explain. Within the public defender's office, I also ran diversity trainings amongst my colleagues, which really tested my patience, really tested my public speaking, and really tested being in an environment where people did not think like you and people did not look like you. So it was very challenging for me. Another thing that you can do outside of therapy is being a probation officer. And to go back to public defender social work, I also did a lot of record reviews, so reviewing a lot of records. Also be a probation officer with your MSW. You can also be a correctional counselor. I've looked at those jobs. I'm okay. Like I'm okay. I don't think that's something that I would want to do, but there are people that might want to do it. You can also be a victim advocate. Victim advocates really are the voice for the victims in cases. They really make sure that the court, the judge, the lawyers truly understand how the victims feel. When we get into hospitals and insurance, utilization review specialist. I've been trying to learn more about those jobs and try to see if I can apply. You can also do behavioral health case management. Come across those jobs on like CVS and things like that. You can also be a care coordination specialist. Nonprofit organizations, things that you can do. A program coordinator. You can be a program manager. You can be a program director. You can be a grant manager. You can be a grant writer. The thing with the MSW is that the degree is so flexible. You don't like one thing, you can try something else. And if you don't like that, you can try something else. A MSW is one of the most flexible degrees that you can have. And so that's something to always remember. Anybody that's going into social work, I would highly suggest that at the bare minimum, you get your MSW. I know everybody's lives is different. Everybody doesn't have the money for an MSW. I know we're living in different times, and I'm not somebody who comes from a complete privileged background. I come from a mom who made a lot of sacrifices for me. As somebody who grew up without my dad, because my dad died when I was 6, my mom made a lot of sacrifices. And so she took from her 401k so that way I can attend Howard University. And I tell you, my mom has made sacrifices just to see me succeed. She has done more than in any way, shape, or form that I can pay it forward or pay her back. There's no way that I can pay her back, right? Or just make her smile or just bring her joy and just make sure she's a part of my success. That's what I do, because my mom, I would not be here. I would not be in front of you. I would not have my degrees. I would not even have my license because my mom paid for me to take my LCSW on the 3rd try. Not because I asked her for the money, but because she knows how frustrated I was. She knows that this is something that I wanted. In any way, shape, or form that my mom can contribute to my success, she is at the forefront. Let's clap it up for my mom. Maybe one day I'll introduce her on my channel. We do have a vlog up, a traveling vlog up, but maybe one day I'll interview her so you guys can meet her. But if you can get your MSW, get your MSW so that way you can have the flexibility. If you want to take it a step further, get your license. Even if it's your LMSW, get your license so that way you can open up more opportunities. You can transfer your license to different states that allow you to do that, so on and so forth. Moving into macro social work. You have policy analysts, you have legislative analysts, you have community organizer, you have advocacy manager. Quick story. When I graduated with my MSW, when I came back home, I moved back to my hometown, home state from the DMV area after attending Howard. I was reaching out for connections. Connections are worth more than money. And while I was reaching out to people, going on LinkedIn and just literally cold writing people, hi, my name is Jasmine. I'm a recent graduate of Howard University. I am interested in social work and criminal justice. I would love to connect with you. I met a guy who worked for the ACLU, and he is a community organizer. He met with me at a Dunkin' Donuts, and we just talked. He had a previous background being in the criminal legal system, being out for many, many years now at this point, and working for the ACLU and being a community organizer and doing a lot of groundwork, a lot of organizing, a lot of being at the forefront for stuff that most people wouldn't want to be at the forefront for. And he's still in my life. He just congratulated me on my LCSW. And he just said that he's so proud of me. And he said, I believed in you then. And you need people like that in your life that see things that you don't see in that moment. even when I was going through what I was going through in the public defender's office and just feeling ostracized and just feeling out of place and just feeling put down, he told me that I was there for a reason. He told me that I was there for a reason, and I will never forget that. And I love him so much, and I'm so thankful for him. What else can you do within macro social work? Director of community programs, health equity coordinator, right? So there's a lot that you can do. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. When I see, program director and all of that, that scares me a little bit. And maybe I'm just not at that point in my career where I want to do that, but it just really scares me. Ever reach a point where I want to be a director or program director or things like that. But again, you have to know yourself and know what you want to do. And sometimes we do shortchange ourselves. So like I said, I don't know if my mind might change about that. But as of right now, that is not something that I'm seeking. Corporate and private sector jobs. I have employee assistant programs jobs, and you can also be a consultant. Consultant work is something that you can do with your MSW, especially with your clinical license, and you come up with your own rates and you charge based on your worth, your experience, etc. And you consult employee relations specialist, wellness program manager, learning and development specialist. There's so much that you can do. Now we're moving into higher ed, academic advisor, college counselor, student success coordinator, adjunct professor, Title X coordinator. Now, again, you might not find all of these jobs exactly where you're at. So guess what? Sometimes you have to move. Sometimes you have to relocate if that's something that you can do. Maybe you can find it remotely if possible. Maybe you can transfer your license to 2 or 3 different states and now you're opening up your opportunities. And never ever forget how flexible an MSW degree can be. Entrepreneurship. This is where I'm at on top of working a 9 to 5. Private practice owner. My ultimate goal is to build a forensic private practice. I want to offer forensic mental health evaluations to the courts, to private attorneys, public defender's office, etc. I also want to provide anger management to court mandated clients. Why? Because anger management is a certain amount of classes and then you're done. Also, one of the key things that I would recommend is pay attention to people that do things that you want to do. You heard that I didn't say copy them. I said pay attention. There's a way to be inspired and a way to learn and a way to apply things without completely copying somebody. When I worked in the public defender's office, I met a clinical social worker who took all of our anger management clients, all of the clients that came through that needed anger management because it was ordered by the court. We sent them to her. And I remember speaking to her one day and kind of asking her questions. And so she said she has her clinical license and she only does anger management and she only took Husky. You got to really pay attention when you're on LinkedIn and stuff. Yes, you can job search, right? But go and look at people's profiles. Who's doing what you want to do? I follow several people who already have a forensic mental health practice. You want to find your lane and what you like and what you love and figure out how you can grow it. Private practice owner is one thing you can do within entrepreneurship. Consulting. I am still actively working on consulting. Consulting, you really need connections. Within all of this, you need connections. Again, connections are worth more than money. Why? Because you never know who is going to say your name in a room that you're not in. You never know who is going to say, wow, Jasmine is a really, really phenomenal social worker. She's able to connect fast. She's able to learn fast. She's able to navigate and transition, learn and adapt. And I think she would be really good for this position. You never know. One of the things that I've heard is that in order to get a professor position, it's all about who you know. It's all about who you know. Another thing you can do, you can be a CEU presenter within entrepreneurship. And if you have the correct licensure and things like that. A speaker. I've presented at several conferences, National Association of Black Social Work Conference. I presented at a school in New York before. I presented at the Millennial Social Work Conference. Again, full transparency. Every conference is not a paid conference. But again, connections are worth more than money. I will say this, at this point in my career, I am not open and I am not seeking non-paid opportunities. It might be something that I genuinely want to do. Like the Millennial Social Work Conference is something that I love and I would do year after year. However, at this point in my career, based on the amount of pouring back into people that I've done, based on the amount of non-paid speaking opportunities that I've completed, based on creating my YouTube channel, giving out free knowledge, you also need to be paid and you also need to be compensated, because free doesn't pay your bills. And a lot of people expect social workers to do stuff for free that they will pay somebody else for. And so you have to have boundaries and you have to be able to stand your ground. And I'm not saying never do anything for free. I'm talking about me and where I am at this point in my journey. Another thing you can do, you can be an author. Writing a book is definitely on my list. You can be a social work content creator. Another thing that you can do within entrepreneurship, social work, clinical licensure is you can provide supervision. You can provide it for free or you can charge. I would probably do both. Why? Because I received my supervision hours for free while working in the public defender's office. Always want to find a way to pay things forward. So all in all, something within this webinar that you like. I hope you've learned something from within this webinar, and just know that you don't have to box yourself in. I told myself early on, girl, you are not boxing yourself in. You are never going to box yourself in. I am so multi-dimensional and I can't box myself in. Now, granted, especially since obtaining clinical licensure, I do think it's time that I kind of focus more on one or two things, right? Which is why I'm honing in on like building my forensic mental health practice and things like that. But I can't box myself in. On top of social work, I also am the owner of Natural Glow Essentials, which is a all-natural skincare company that is dedicated to really explaining and educating on the mind, body, and soul connection, really educating you on the importance of utilizing natural products with natural ingredients, taking time to moisturize your skin, taking time to massage your skin, taking time to understand the use of different essential oils, lavenders for calm, taking time to educate people and hand make all natural products. And we are still growing and still expanding. We open in 2020. I hope you got something from this webinar. I will be back with more webinars. Make sure you are following me on YouTube, That Social Worker Entrepreneur, TikTok, That Social Worker Entrepreneur, Instagram, That Social Worker Entrepreneur. That is my brand. And this is something that I started prior to becoming licensed. I didn't wait until I had my LCSW to start my YouTube channel, or to start a brand, or to start having a presence on TikTok. You need to know who you are well before you arrive. Always with love, your social worker, big sister, That Social Worker Entrepreneur. I will catch you on the next webinar. Bye.